The seal that we have on an American dollar bill is an occult seal of an occult society pursuing an occult agenda. We are not aware of that. And that's what we at International Research hope to do for you, is to make you aware of certain things which are going on in our government, in our world today, that you have not up till now been made aware of. It is not our purpose to spend too much time on this particular order of Freemasonry, the Illuminati, but we want to spend enough time so that you understand how it worked, what its purposes were, and how it affects us today. Because it's still with us today. It has taken on different forms in different countries, but it is still basically with the world today. Now, perhaps some of you are aware of this material that we're discussing right now, and maybe you're not. But to show that this is not just our understanding of things, we have gone back to records in the past, as far back as the founding of the United States, and comments made by George Washington, which we're going to read in a few moments. Here is an article from the grand jury of the state of Pennsylvania, published in 1800s, dealing with Freemasonry and the Illuminati and the problems that they were confronting in the state of Pennsylvania. As we said, George Washington mentioned the Illuminati, and I mentioned the Illuminati a few moments ago in relation to the democratic societies that were being founded in the United States. The Democratic Party today is an outgrowth of what we call the democratic societies of Europe. The democratic societies, while on the surface sounds good, but when one looks further into what democracy means and how it actually works, democracy does not seem to work too well. And there's a reason. Let me read to you from a California State Senate first. 11th report, State Investigating Committee on Education, published in 1953 by the California State Senate, and it talks about the Illuminati. You can get a copy of this from the International Research if you wish. In dealing with the subject of communism, secret societies of communism, in 1953, on page 168, I'm going to do a little reading, but it's very important. I think it's important that you should hear this. On 168, the California State Senate goes on to say, since many intelligent persons, even in high official positions, do not appear to have acquainted themselves with the real nature and seriousness of communism, it is perhaps appropriate to give briefly some really informative, authentic data concerning it. Communism and Russia are by no means synonymous. Russia merely occupies the unfortunate position of being communism's first victim. Communism is synonymous with world revolution and seeks the destruction of all nations, abolition of patriotism, religion, marriage, family, private property, and all political civil liberties, and the establishment of a worldwide dictatorship of the so-called proletariat, which is in fact an autocratic, self-constituted dictatorship by a small group of self-perpetuating revolutionaries. Over on page 169, the document goes on to say, so-called modern communism is apparently the same hypocritical and deadly world conspiracy to destroy civilization that was founded by the secret order of the Illuminati in Bavaria in May 1st, 1776, and that raised its hoary head here in our colonies at critical periods before the adoption of our federal Constitution. The world revolution conspiracy appears to have been so well organized and ever continuing to be ever on the alert to take advantage of every opportunity presenting itself or that the conspirators could create. It is significant in this connection that as early as 1783, when unsettled conditions and dissatisfaction in some quarters had arisen in the American colonies, subversive anonymous sermons were circulated among the colonial army to incite dissatisfaction and rebellion. George Washington immediately called the army together and in addressing them used this significant language. This is taken from page 86, volume 4 of Marshall's Life on Washington, remembering that this is 1783, George Washington addressing the Army. Says this: "My God, what can this writer have in view by recommending such measures? Can he be a friend to the Army? Can he be a friend to this country? Rather, is he not an insidious foe, some emissary perhaps from New York?" Then the next paragraph, the California State Senate continues, "It is plain that George Washington believed that the then center of this secret conspiracy, so far as this country was concerned, to be located in the city of New York." We know that there has been some sort of a manipulation of our government, our money, our institutions, and our lives by our government. But what we don't realize is that there is an agenda. There is a method to the madness. We want to look into this secret movements of the world and how they affect us in our private lives. And we may not think they affect us on a private level, but they do. They affect your children in school. They affect what your children learn. They affect what you learn from nightly television. There have been many movies discussing this publicly. Even George Washington, in his personal letters, mentioned the Illuminati and Freemasonry. George Washington himself was a Freemason. In response to a letter sent to George Washington in 1798, warning him about a Masonic movement operating in America, and this particular Masonic movement are referred to as the Illuminati, George Washington responded in a letter to the person saying that "I have the favor of the 17th instant before me, and my only motive to trouble you with the receipt of this letter is to explain and correct a mistake which I perceive in a hurry I am obliged often to write letters I have led you into. It was not my intention to doubt that the doctrines of the Illuminati, the principles of Jacobinism, had not spread to the United States. On the contrary, no one is more truly satisfied of that fact than I am. The idea that I meant to convey, that I did not believe that the lodges of Freemasonry in this country as societies have endeavored to promulgate the diabolical tenets of the first or the pernicious principles of the latter, if they are susceptible to separation, but that individuals of them may have done it, or that the founder or instrument founded, or the instrument employed to found the democratic societies in the United States may have had these objects in mind and actually had the separation of the people from their government in view is too evident to be questioned." What George Washington was saying was that the mere fact that someone had charged that the Illuminati was operating in America, George Washington said, on the contrary, no one is more truly satisfied of that fact than I am. And then he proceeded to say that he did not believe that all Freemasons were involved in this plot, but that the founders of the Democratic Society in America, or the Democratic Party, as we call it today, in America, had the object in mind of the Illuminati's projects, and had actually, the Democratic Party, George Washington said, actually had the separation of the people from their government in view. It is too evident to be questioned. That may explain why today that in a democratic country like America, the people make certain demands on the government and the government doesn't respond. The people want this, the government doesn't respond. The people demand that, the government doesn't respond. Because the whole concept of the democratic process in America was purposely to divide the people from their government, so that the people could be out here working, taking care of their lives, feeding their children, and sending their politicians to Washington to look out for them. When they got there, they were already members of certain fraternal organizations, and all government was already taken care of, so that the people have nothing to say about anything. And that's the point we're trying to make, that when you send politicians to Washington, D.C., they might just as well stay home.